Well, welcome back to the Valley Hoops Insider podcast, part of the Valley Hoops Insider website. I'm Schroeder, editor of the site, host of this show. And we're going to take a deeper dive into the Belmont Bruins today. Casey Alexander, the head coach, joins us today from Nashville. And Casey, appreciate your time today. 10-1. You got to feel good about all of that. Just stepping back 11 games in. Man, how are things?
Yeah, it's I am pleased with the big picture. You go into all of them expecting to win and disappointed when you don't, but probably be lying if I told you at the beginning of the season that I wouldn't be happy with 10-1. So I think the best part about it is I love our group and kind of table each day. It makes coaching feel a lot less like a job and more like just a fun little sidekick maybe.
Yeah, so you guys are 10-1. What are you most encouraged by? Not just the 10 victories, but what is still troubling you?
Yeah, most encouraged that we've had much better balance than our teams have historically. I think we're playing, as we sit here today, I think we're second in the country, maybe in effective field goal percentage offense, but we've also been very good and very consistent on the defensive end. And so I like that we don't have to score 90 to win like we have sometimes in the past. And I think a lot of that comes with it's personnel driven, but a lot of it is having a better nucleus of returnees has kind of led to the early success. Long way to go, though, of course.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I think you guys are averaging 8 fewer points per game on the defensive side. Like you're holding people down 8 points less than last year. People think about Belmont. They think about your effective offense, and you guys are still effective offensively, but your defensive side is markedly better. Talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a combination of things. I think we have a few individual pieces that are really good and maybe even better on that end than on the offensive end. We have more overall size, which has been nice. I think just the mentality of the team, just the makeup of the team is a little bit more blue collar. And I think we finished, we pick up where we left off last year. We were a woefully bad defensive team for the first 25-ish games and finished the year really, really strong. I think over the last 5 or 6 games of the season, we were in the top 10. And which is kind of, I don't even know who keeps up with those numbers, but we made some changes and it worked. And then we picked up from there this summer. And so schematically, we're just a lot more sound and do things a little bit better.
You talked about the size, and I've watched you guys a couple of times. You don't exactly alternate Chernosky and Rogers, but you basically alternate the two of them. And between the two post players, I think you're getting 19 and 9 out of your post position. And then, of course, Brigham's a real shutdown defender. But you have size, and you guys are a legit threat in the post, maybe more than any time since Moose was there.
Yeah, definitely. And when you do look at those combined numbers, they're very impressive. And both of them are like in the 70% field goal percentage as well, with plenty of attempts, especially when you combine them together. So they've been remarkably efficient. I think we're doing some things offensively that kind of play to their strengths a little bit. I wouldn't say that we created offense for them, but they have benefited from it with the kind of scoring opportunities that they get. And they're both everyday guys. They're very different, but at the same time, better for us even that they're unique in their own way, but both can make contributions on both ends.
You guys are talented offensively. Your scheme obviously fits the players. Haven't seen McLean before this year, obviously. I mean, maybe it's not obvious, but I haven't seen him before this year. He is really a legit point guard, isn't he?
Turning into one. We've talked a lot with him about his inconsistency I'm talking about going back to the summer when everything was brand new, and he's really improved in that regard. And we've seen some outstanding play from him here in the last several weeks. His numbers speak for themselves. But I'm confident that if he is, if he's in the discussion for being an all-conference player, then our team is going to have a good conference run.
You have great depth this year too. I think 9 guys are playing like double-digit minutes, and Jack Smiley has emerged. You and I talked about him in the offseason. You told me he didn't look like a freshman, and boy, the game this weekend, he didn't look like a freshman either. And talk about just your depth and about Mr. Smiley.
Yeah, well, let's set the record straight. He looks like a freshman, but he doesn't play. So I want to make sure that we
I stand corrected.
But he is remarkably confident, has been since the day he walked on campus, and a really good player. And he's been able to. We haven't put too much expectation on him, but when his number has been called, he has delivered in a big way, and he's had some really big moments already this season. When we needed a big bucket or a big segment of play from him, he's risen to the occasion, which is great to see. It's hard for all freshmen to step in and be themselves coming out of, a high school career where they were the man and probably leading scorer and everything else. That just goes with the territory. And for him, he's our only freshman. So, I would think it makes it even more difficult, but he's really been not a surprise, but he's been a really pleasant, it's been a pleasant surprise that he's been so effective and so efficient, I should say it that way.
And you don't have any drop off, it doesn't seem anyway, when you go to the bench. You've got a lot of guys that can contribute.
Well, that's what those guys on the bench think anyway. That's but we've always played a lot of guys. I've always played a deep bench when we could afford it. But our tempo offensively and kind of the pace we play with, it doesn't lend itself for guys to just grind out 30 and 35 minutes on a game by game basis. And so I've always been quick, especially in the first half, to get some guys into the game. But I think you're right. I mean, we've got good quality of depth, not a lot of holes. We've got some guys we can put in when we need a defensive boost. We've got some guys we can put in offensively if that's where we're struggling that particular night. So that's good for me as the head coach.
The one negative, obviously, you're a great shooting team, but you're bad at free throws. You're going to start asking people to guard you when you shoot? Yeah,
it's a combination of kind of the wrong guys shooting too many of those free throw foul shots and just being in a little bit of a rut. We started the season out pretty well and then went through just a woeful 3 or 4 game stretch where we couldn't even 50% would have been a good night at the free throw line. So we came out of it a little bit in our last outing. I'm not concerned about it long term, but it's keeping our overall efficiency from being as good as we want it to be. I mean, I mentioned earlier our effective field goal percentage is, I think, second in the country, but our overall offense is, in the 70s, 80s, 90s or something like that. And we're leaving too many points on the board or turning the ball over too often.
When I have watched your team and we talked about the depth and the different guys, obviously Lundblad is figuring out what it looks like to be the top guy on the scouting report. But he's maybe, I don't know if started slow is the right word, but he seems to be just growing into that role.
Yeah. I feel for him, honestly, because he's had so few possessions all year long where he hasn't had 2 arms wrapped around him, and he's really having to work to get open. It wasn't a surprise. We knew this is what he was going to face, and he's handled it very well. But I think he's a little bit of a sophomore slump, if you want to call it that. He's probably pressing a little bit too much. Feels like he has to make every shot. He's not getting the quality of shots that he was able to sneak up early in the season last year. And so he's learning how to play through that, but he's still an extraordinary weapon. He's having a great year. He's had some big games, and I would expect that to continue. He has so much gravity when he plays on offense that he helps everybody else, even if he's not making shots.
You have 3 straight road games. You have Evansville this week, and then UC Irvine, and then Indiana State. Have you looked much at the Purple Aces yet? And, they have a couple of bigger guys, so maybe they match up a little bit differently with you. But what about the Purple Aces?
Yeah, I mean, I'm scared to death. The last time we played them was at home, and they throttled us from start to finish, and their style was a big part of it. Their size and a slower tempo team, a team that really tries to expose matchups. I'm so impressed with Turnbull and the progress he's made. I mean, I think he's I don't know a lot about the league at this stage of the season, but he seems to be as important to his team as probably any other player in the league is. And he's playing, he finished the year really well last year, and then he's picked up where he left off. So respect for them, love Rags and how he runs his program. I think any game in the Valley, it's what we knew it from the very beginning of joining the league. It's just, you better show up ready to play, or you're not going to have a very good post game.
For people that haven't seen your team yet, describe the contributions of Jabez Jenkins. I think he's second in your team in rebounding and second in steals and averaging about 9. I mean, he's just doing a lot of good things.
Yeah, Bez is he redshirted last year. He was physically ready to play and would have made a contribution, but for different reasons, we ended up redshirting he along with Owen Dillon and Cooper Haynes. And he really used that year to grow. He gives us some different dimensions. I mean, I think he's got a really high IQ and he plays well in our system, but his ability to defend and kind of do some blue collar things, to play around the rim, a level of toughness that our team desperately needed, he provides. And so he started his first game, and I think he started every one of them. So he's been a big contributor to what we've done so far.
You've got UC Irvine over the weekend, and they're a top 130 something in the net, and we this time of year everybody's focusing on the net and all of that. Can one game become bigger than the next game, or does every game have to just be that game?
Yeah, I think I look ahead, I think about all those things. Numbers are important to me. I love analytics, so I think about all that probably more than most coaches and definitely more than I should. But at the same time, it's far too early to even worry or care what anybody's, net ranking is, ours included. I think that stuff's going to play itself out. We have a lot of control over what we do, but not total control because our opponent has a pretty good say in that every time we show up. And we have zero control over what our opponents do. And so, it's a big game because they're good. When we get there, it'll be a big game because they're good. They beat us last year, and they're going to have a great season. So at worst, it's going to be a good win when all is said and done. But how good, who really knows at this point in time?
I told you before we started, I wanted to talk about this a little bit. We find ourselves, I think, in the Missouri Valley Conference and conferences like it, so under the weight of, man, our team has to get to the NCAA tournament or it's a terrible season. Not boy, we're disappointed. It's a terrible season. It's a total loss. And I kind of I rebuff that in my own mind and heart. I think the conference season is huge, and the rivalry, big games, and the progress of the young men. Just tell me a little bit about your thoughts, your philosophy in that regard.
Yeah, I think I feel very similarly to how you feel. I would equate it to, on a personal level as a coach, is this what I do for a living, or is this who I am? And it's definitely not who I am. It's my job and I love it and I want to be great at it. But I don't want to be identified, by how well I do or how well I don't do. There's a lot in my life that's more important than being a basketball coach, and I look at the team and the season the same way. It's, we're all competitors. We all do this at a high level, and we put in a lot of hours because we want to give ourselves and our team the best chance to be successful. But any kind of reflection in the off season is definitely good for this. You realize more and more, especially the older you get, the journey of the season, the players on your team, the group in its entirety. When you think about coaches and managers and GAs and everybody else, that's the beauty of the business to me. And the better you do those things, I think there's a real clear correlation to, the more success that you're going to have, when you put your heart and soul into the relationships and kind of the day-to-day aspects, then you're a lot more likely to have the success that you want in the end. I will also say this, though, at Belmont, it's a really relevant conversation because we had such great success in the OVC. We were in that league for 10 years and never finished worse than first or second in the regular season. And I think we won 5 or 6 championships while we were in the league as far as NCAA tournament goes, So naturally, every year that goes by that we don't go to the NCAA tournament in the Valley, people want to quickly say, well, I don't know about that decision. I don't know if that was right. It's honestly, it's borderline offensive because I love the league. I love the league and I love what we're doing and who we're doing it with.
Yeah, I guess when I look at that, I'm here in St. Louis and watching Norm Stewart coach at Missouri forever, and they would just win Big 8 championships and be right there first or second every year, and they didn't always do great things in the NCAA tournament. And people today would think that's kind of a marginal coach. He's not that good. They're not winning all these NCAA tournament games. And to me, that is so short-sighted about all the other stuff that's valuable in a basketball program and what it is for the community. Yeah,
I have no problem with the aspiration being to play in the NCAA tournament. That's, if you put, I'm not a put goals on the wall kind of guy, but if you made every coach do that, I'm sure that the NCAA tournament would be on everybody's wall. That's just kind of territory, and that's the ultimate prize. And then you can, the better you are, the more games you're talking about winning in the NCAA tournament. So I don't want to minimize that, at all. But I would also say, it's kind of the difference in being in it every day and being an observer from afar is the grind of the season, and winning a regular season championship is far, far more difficult than winning a conference tournament and going to the NCAA tournament. And so now the great teams that can do both, then you're really talking about a magical year or a magical run, that everybody remembers very well.
It's a long way away before you guys are going to play Murray a couple of times this year, but after your rivalry in the OVC, and now both of you are right near the top at the Valley for right now. I mean, you guys are both had terrific starts. I think that just adds some extra juice to this particular season. Is that even something do you even pay attention to how the other teams are doing until you get into league play?
I pay attention. I'm a junkie, and I'll watch games, every night, on ESPN Plus, whether it's our league or anybody else. But I'm definitely going to pay close attention to our league, but not so much in how do we stack up or measure up, or what are they doing offensively or defensively. Literally more as a fan, at this stage of the game. Not necessarily a fan of them, but a fan. And we'll worry about the nuts and bolts of it all when we get a little bit closer. But it goes without saying they're off to a great start, as are many teams in the league.
Yeah, off to a great start. But I just think of that extra juice, the rivalry between those two programs. If you can both be near the top later in the year when you're playing one another, it just makes the whole thing a lot more fun. When you're just projecting forward, like I said, you got 3 straight on the road, and after you get past Irvine this weekend, it's Valley all the time. Talk about that grind, and it's going to be different this year. The schedule's kind of a little bit wackier because of 11 teams, and you're not always kind of that consistent makeup. Talk about the grind of the conference season.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter what league you play in or what level you play in. The grind of a conference season is exactly that. I mean, it is a challenge physically and mentally, because you just feel like, there's so much urgency and importance in every time that you step out there, whether you're home, road, against the top of the league or the bottom. It's just the way that it goes. And and this league is definitely no different. What I love about this league, I said it earlier, is just the quality of depth from top to bottom. And maybe it's not realistic that every team in the league, can have expectations of winning the regular season or even the tournament for that matter, maybe. But at the same time, I legitimately believe that if we don't play well in this league, we're going to lose every time that we play. And that creates, an extra added element of pressure, but it also makes it more fun and more rewarding that, every big road win or every conference championship someday in our future, it'll make it all, that much more spectacular and valuable.
Before I let you go, you keep in touch with the NBA guys, the former Belmont NBA guys. You got a couple of them out there.
Yeah, well, Ben Shepherd is hurt right now with the Pacers, but yeah, we stay in contact with those guys. He's the only active player that we have right now. We got a bunch of people playing all over the world, but
you don't claim Jacoby
Gillespie?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he thinks he's a pro. He's at the University of Tennessee, but he thinks he's a pro right now. Cade Tyson just had 38, I think, the other night in Minnesota. So we've got some guys out there that are doing pretty well. But for me personally, Garrison Matthews, who I coached at Lipscomb, is also on the Pacers. So I got 2 guys out playing, and they're both on the same team.
Spectacular. Casey, appreciate your time. Thanks for every time we get together. I appreciate it, and wish you all the best the rest of the season. Thanks for the time.
Same to you. Thanks for carrying the Valley for us.
Oh, I'm trying, brother. I'm trying. That's Casey Alexander. He's the head coach of the Belmont Bruins. They're 10-1, 3 straight road games coming up. Evansville, then UC Irvine, then Indiana State. They are making some noise in the Valley. Folks, thanks for watching. We appreciate every time you do. Remember, since you've been there, make it a better place. We'll see you again real soon.